What do you get when you mix together early 1900s Japan and Russia, high-stakes adventure, seinen, ridiculously funny comedy, a dash of hunting and cooking, and lots of naked men? So many naked men. You get the winning recipe that is Golden Kamuy. After watching all 41 episodes of it that are currently out at the time of this recording, I can say that I came away from it with a deeper respect for nature, a new understanding of the Ainu culture, an appreciation for the unifying power of food, and lots of laughs. I really think this anime has something for every kind of viewer, whether you like intense and brutal action sequences or silly comedy that actually makes you laugh out loud. What originally drew me into this series was looking at the manga covers while I was browsing in the bookstore. I mean, look at these. I didn't end up buying the manga, but instead opted for the anime, which most people will say was the wrong choice. Regardless, it's still a highly underrated series that I feel deserves much more attention than it's been given, which is part of the reason why I wanted to make this video. This doesn't mean that it's without its flaws though, but we'll get into that later. For now, let's talk about the general story. So we're thrown into a time period just after the Russo-Japanese War in the early 1900s. Our MC is Immortal Sugimoto, a former Japanese soldier who's looking for money to fulfill a promise he made to an old war buddy. He learns that there's a treasure map tattooed on a bunch of prisoners' bodies, and he takes it upon himself to skin every last one of these prisoners to find the gold. You heard me right, it's a treasure map made out of skin. Along the way, he meets a young Ainu girl named Asirpa, who teaches him everything she knows about hunting and her culture's cooking. And the Ainu are basically Japanese natives which actually existed in the real world, so it was really cool to learn about a totally new culture I had no idea about. But they both decide to hunt for this gold together, and thus begin their journey through the wilderness, small villages, and various towns in search of these prisoners. But they're not the only ones vying for this gold. There are many other players in this game working on many sides, all with their own motivations. From military elites to ex-police to natives, alliances are constantly shifting and the groups we're with change with that too. This is a part of the series that was super interesting to me. They're all after the same goal, but they have to determine whether the other groups will be friend or foe along the way. This leads to a lot of distrust and deception that really keeps you on the edge of your seat, not knowing who will be betrayed next. So it's safe to say that a big part of this series is the characters. We're introduced to quite a few of them and they all stand out well. There were so many characters that I struggled to remember their names at first, but eventually you'll get used to it and they somehow managed to develop them all very well. Sugimoto is a brash war veteran with a tendency towards violence who claims he's immortal and proves it throughout the series. Nothing can stop him except for Asirpa, who brings out his more kind and gentle side, which I enjoyed seeing. Asirpa is a very strong-willed girl with a lot of spunk and tons of personality to boot, who acts as a great gateway into the Ainu culture. She loves to eat brains and makes some of the funniest faces in the entire series. And then you have Shiraishi, who is known as the Escape King, and is the silly comedic relief throughout the series that I found myself laughing out loud to a lot. These are the main three, but the side characters and antagonists shine just as bright in this series. Lieutenant Tsurumi is the main bad guy who loves to mutilate others, but keeps a sunny disposition eerily enough. And Ushiyama has one of the most profound lines I've ever heard from any character. 大事なのは進歩だ. Truly groundbreaking stuff there. I really like seeing the episodes that did a deep dive into the different characters' backstories too. They all have their own unique pasts, and each of their stories was very interesting to me and helped me understand them more. Almost all of the characters managed to be lovable in their own weird ways. I think where the show really strikes gold, pun intended, is with its balance between action sequences, comedy, and hunting and cooking. There's plenty of action to keep your blood pumping in this series. It mixes guns, swords, and everything in between, and doesn't shy away from gore. It lacks any supernatural powers, but gives each character their own unique specialties that differentiate them. Asirpa uses a bow and arrow with poison, and Ogata is really good at sniping. And there's some super awesome moments like the sniper duel between Ogata and a Russian soldier too. But it also mixes things up with silly humor that really hits. You've got plenty of male nudity to go around. You've got grown men in tutus that cry because they can't dance as well as little girls. And my personal favorite, the pissing scene. You'll know it when you see it. It can also be funny in somewhat disturbing ways. Like there's a guy that treats being murdered like an erotic dream, and the taxidermy guy that goes around wearing human skin. I bet if you watch this show, you'll laugh at something, no matter what your type of humor is. And then to kind of wind down, we get the cooking scenes where most of the silly antics happen. These scenes give you a glimpse into the Ainu culture, with all the details on the kinds of foods they eat and how they're prepared. Some of it's weird, like eating everything's brains, but I enjoyed seeing this way of life and all the unique foods. These moments also act as times where the characters can take a respite and bond with each other. Food is like the glue that brings all these different characters from different walks of life together under one roof to share something. It's an essential part of this series, and although at times it could be a bit tedious and boring, I came to appreciate it by the end. I want to say too, I love the time period and location of this show. The snowy wilderness is only broken up by small towns and villages. It just feels to me like a simpler, more free time where people were more in touch with the world around them. It kind of reminds me of a western if it was set in snowy Japan and Russia. And the manga author did a lot of research into the Ainu to make the world feel really historically authentic. As far as the sound goes, I feel like everything within the show itself was appropriate, but not very memorable. There's no specific instrumental that I remember or would really want to hear again, but I will say the voice acting was pretty good. And the first 3 seasons opening songs are absolute bangers. Listen to this first one. I never skip this one because it's just that awesome. The 4th opening kind of dropped the ball in my opinion though, but all the others were mwah, chef's kiss. And now we get to the main weakness of the show, which is the art and animation. The CGI bears are a big pain point for the show that looks so bad it should be a crime, honestly. They don't use it as much as the series progresses, but I think the majority of people were probably scared off by it after the first episode. Also, the animation in general was just kind of average. There were no moments where I was really wowed by the visuals, and that's just a missed opportunity, honestly. It makes sense though, considering that this studio, Geno Studio, is fairly new and doesn't really have a whole lot of experience. I will say though that I did like the unique facial differences on each of the characters. Credit for that goes to the manga author though. Another weak point was that sometimes I felt like the pacing could be pretty slow. The plot progresses pretty consistently, but it's just broken up by a bunch of hunting, cooking, backstories, etc. that I feel like could have been condensed a bit. So now let's go over a quick pros and cons summary and the final rating. For the pros, we've got interesting characters, hilarious comedy, exciting action, a compelling story, cultural exposure, an awesome setting, and banger openings. And for the cons, we have bad CGI, average animation, and slow pacing. So overall, I'll give it 7.5 tattooed skins out of 10. Let me know if you've seen the show and what you'd rate it because I'm really curious what you guys think. If you haven't watched the show, I definitely recommend you check it out. Have a great day guys, and peace out.